The time has come for the Great League Venusaur PvP IV Deep Dive for Pokemon Go, featuring not just normal Venusaur, but also Shadow Venusaur and Mega Venusaur as well. The reason why I'm doing this video now is because we have the Bulbasaur Community Day Classic coming up this Saturday, January 22nd, 2022, between the hours of 2 p.m. and 5 p.m. local time. It's not 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. That's how current community days are. This is a complete rerun of our previous community day, which was only 3 hours, right? So this event presents a good opportunity for us to evolve Venusaurs with Frenzy Plant for PvP. So if you've been holding out or you've been wanting to get better IV splits on a Venusaur for either Great League or Ultra League PvP, this is a good opportunity to do that. And even if you do have the rank 1 Venusaur for each league, you will want to pay attention to these videos because you may be wanting to evolve some other Venusaurs for some specific jobs based on the breakpoints. Also, if you want to reference any of this information in a text-based format, I will have an article up on GamePress covering both the Great League and the Ultra League up in a couple days here. Link in the description, of course, once that is up. And if you're curious why I'm doing the Great League and the Ultra League separate, well, I don't want to put out all the information at the last minute. I got all the Great League stuff done already, so I figured it'd be good to get that up ahead of time, and then I'll do a Ultra League video in the future, so we got the complete set here. And if you're not really familiar with PvP IVs at all, it all sounds kind of confusing to you, link up above and in the description to my PvP IVs simplified video to kind of get your feet wet here before you dive off into the deep end. So when it comes to Venusaur and Great League PvP, there are basically two flavors, two kind of priorities going on for Venusaur. Priority 1 is having the high stat product Venusaur, so big defense, big HP, pretty important for Venusaur. And then priority 2, or flavor 2 for Venusaur, is the Froslass Slayer. Having enough HP to manage Froslass, but also getting CMP, Charge Move Priority, over Froslass as well. So in this video, I'm going to be talking about both of them. So talking about the attack stat, the attack breakpoints for Venusaur, basically none of them are important. There are minor attack breakpoints against Jellicent, Mew, Unovian, Stunfisk, and Swampert, but for the most part, like, they're so slight that you could get them anyways based on, you know, what attack weight you have just naturally or the lower defense stat that they could have. And then to add to that, they really don't flip any of the matchups in any sort of meaningful way, so I don't really feel like they're much of a priority. What is a bit of a priority for the attack stat, though, is getting Froslass CMP. When it comes to Froslass IVs, the general recommendation is to go for a high bulk, a high stat product Froslass. So if you have higher than 122.5 attack on your Venusaur, that could be enough to get CMP. But of course, when it comes to formats like GBL, where you're fighting just random people, and even in competitive tournaments, you don't know the true IVs of your opponent, and they could have a higher attack weight. And I think most reasonably, if you want to like almost guarantee that you get CMP on these Froslasses, you may want to shoot above 124.4 attack just to make sure you get the CMP. Now obviously being in like the 123-ish range is also pretty consistent too, so at the end of the day it's up to you to decide like how much attack you want your Venusaur to have to try to get CMP on Froslass. And as you get CMP on Froslass, you can also get CMP on other Venusaurs too, so there is like a little added benefit. And then all those attack break points that don't matter, you're probably definitely picking them up too if you're going for the CMP. Then rolling on to the defense checks for Venusaur here, the most important defense weight I'd have to say would be for Galarian Stunfisk, which can range from 116.95, which is the rank 1 Galar Stunfisk, to roughly 121.13, which is like a good estimate for an egg hatch Galar Stunfisk attack weight. Obviously there could be Galar Stunfisks with even higher attack stats than that, so having even more defense could be a good idea, but I feel like 121.13 is a pretty reasonable cutoff. Now of course if you do have like the rank 1 Venusaur for instance, you'd have like a 124.2 defense stat, so you're meeting that already. This is just for people that don't have that or are maybe thinking of building one that can manage Froslass and get CMP and have good defense and have good HP. You know, this is a good check for them to just be mindful of, because the more you drop below that 121.13, the more difficult your Galar Stunfisk matchups are going to become. Now when it comes to this defense range, this also encompasses a Mew defense breakpoint and a Trevenant defense breakpoint, and to an extent an Obstagoon defense breakpoint as well. There could be other defense breakpoints too, they just didn't seem to be all that relevant. And when it comes to these defense breakpoints, they're not super dire for those matchups either, aside from the Obstagoon one, which could help you beat it in the 0-1 shield disadvantage scenario. So 0 as in you spend no shields, and 1 as in they spend a shield, and you still are able to overcome them. For even higher defense weights to pay attention to, 123.78 can help you get a Hex defense breakpoint for Jellicent, allowing you to possibly overcome it in the 0-1 and 1-2 shield scenarios. But the thing is that that's the rank 1 Jellicent, so if they have a slightly higher attack weight than that, then that, defense breakpoint could be a bit unchaseable. But I feel like the existence of this and the other defense breakpoints I'm going to talk about do give some credence to building like a defensively weighted Venusaur, something that's got higher defense than what the rank 1 Venusaur has. It's a pretty good option to keep your eyes peeled for if you have one. You already got the rank 1 set, maybe evolve the bigger defense boy, you know what I'm saying? Another one is 123.22 for Bastiodon. Doesn't exactly flip the matchup, but can give you more options if you are stuck in a Bastiodon matchup, because it can't farm you down with the smackdowns as easily. The upper limit I have for the Obstagoon defense is also 124.49. That's for like a egg hatch, high attack weight kind of Obstagoon there, so it could help out. And then if you have like basically like the max defense, it could possibly help against Shadow Nidoqueen too, but if Shadow Nidoqueen has enough of an attack weight, then it doesn't exactly matter. So, having a bigger defense weight than the rank 1 does confer some advantages. Just having the rank 1 itself is also pretty good. And then finally, we have the HP stat, which may be the most important stat for normal Venusaur in Great League PvP. If you have a 123 HP stat, which is the goal HP, which is also the rank 1 Venusaur's HP, you can overcome Lapras and Dewgong in the 2-2 shield scenarios. Now I know we are in the Walrein meta now, and Walrein is, better than Lapras and Dewgong, but if we're in like a Kanto Cup type format, then having that 123 HP could be pretty relevant there. And I don't think Lapras and Dewgong are completely out of the meta either, so they come up often enough where if you got a Venusaur, you may as well make sure that you're prepared for those Pokemon, right? And then the next lower HP stat that's good is going to be the 122 HP for Froslass 2-2 shield scenario. If you have CMP on Froslass, so a slight attack weight, and you have at least 122 HP, then you can last long enough in the Froslass matchup to get to the KOing Frenzy Plant. Of course, you'd have to win CMP if they threw Avalanche at the time that you threw Frenzy Plant as well. Frenzy Plant and Avalanche do come at the same exact time, assuming that there's no sneak or denials happening that are out of place, so could be relevant. So here I have a table of the 68 different Venusaur IV spreads that meet the 121.13 defense check and have at least a 123 HP stat with any attack check. Linked in the description, of course, to the 68 splits, customizable table from pvpivs.com. So of course, if you do want to be a little bit more strict or a little bit more relaxed on either your defense or your HP, you can go down here and change what defense and HP cutoffs that you're looking for. And if you do want to have like the Froslass attack weight and see what IVs those are, then you can bring up this attack stat as well. Just keep in mind that you're not going to be able to meet both the attack, the defense, and the HP checks to do everything on here, which is why you are going to want to evolve multiple Venusaurs, just so you've got multiple options based on the metas or certain jobs that you want Venusaur to take care of. And to that end, it's also a good idea to evolve Venusaurs that like hit well, but have different attack, defense, and HP weights than what you already have as well. So when I say hit well, I mean hits above like 1490 CP, because who knows what's going to come in the future. Right now, these are the stats that seem to matter a lot for Venusaur, but down the line, having a slightly higher attack weight could be relevant against one thing or another, so good to be prepared, am I right? Then next up, we have Shadow Venusaur for Great League PvP, and Shadow Venusaur basically has two main priorities to it, and that's having big HP and having big defense. Now, because we can't control the IVs of our Shadow Pokemon as well as we can for, non-Shadow Pokemon, because we have to fight Rockets, and then on top of that, I think Bulbasaur has been out of the Rocket pool for a while now, so what you have for Shadow Bulbasaurs for Shadow Venusaur candidates is kind of what you're stuck with, right? So meeting the defense checks can be important. Meeting the HP checks I'm going to talk about can also be important. And then depending on what format you're going into, having the higher HP or the higher defense can be better than one or the other. But if you can do both, doing both would be fantastic. So congratulations to you if you can do both, but if you can't do both, like me, for instance, my candidates either do one or the other. Well, evolve two of them and then make your choice as you approach a meta that you want to use Shadow Venusaur in. So starting out with the defense checks here, 121.9 defense can allow you to overcome Charm, Alolan Ninetales in the 2-2 shield scenario. This can also be covered by having at least a 123 HP stat. So having the defense check makes it a lot more clean because you've got much more HP to work with. But if you don't have the defense check, but you do have 123 HP, then you'll still be covered in the 2-2 shield scenario against Charm, Alolan Ninetales. Then there's the 120.46 to 122.04 defense check for Wigglytuff for basically the same idea, the 2-2 shield scenario, which ends up being the 1-2 shield scenario because it doesn't reach the next, like the second charge move. And yeah, same deal here. If you have at least a 121 HP stat, then you don't necessarily need to have this defense check, but if you do have the defense check, then it makes the matchup that much more clean. When it comes to the Charm Alolan Ninetales breakpoint here, this is going to be based off of an Egg Hatch Alolan Ninetales, and then when it comes to the Wigglytuff, the range is based off of the rank 1 to an Egg Hatch IV Wigglytuff. Then when it comes to the HP checks here, a lot of them are going to function in a range because a lot of them are going to assume that you're going to take at least one charge move worth of damage. And if your defense stat is like lower than like 120 or 119, then you could take one additional damage from these charge moves, which means that you're going to want to have one more HP than the goal HP. So that's why a lot of these HP checks are going to have a range along with them. Obviously having more HP is going to be better, but you can see here that having at least a good defense stat along with the good HP can be important. So once again, a kind of a scenario where if you have the rank 1 Shadow Venusaur, like congratulations to you, but if you don't, then here's some HP stats to pay attention to. So we've got 122 HP stat for the Lickitung 2-2 shield scenario, 120 to roughly 121 on the HP for the Scrafty 0-0, 01, and 2-2 shield scenarios, 120 to 122 HP for the Vigoroth 2-2 shield scenario, 120 to 121-ish for the Greedent 1-2 shield disadvantage scenario, 118 to 119 for the Deoxys defense form, throwing Rock Slide at you, 1-2 shield scenario, and then 121 to 122 for Meganium, 1-2 shield disadvantage scenario, 118 to 119 for the Swampert 0-1 shield scenario, and then 120 to 121 for the Azumarill using Ice Beam 0-1 shield scenario. There's an interesting one here, 121 HP for the normal Hypno 1-0 shield advantage potential, maybe. This one was kind of like goofy to try to sim out because of like how slow hitting Confusion can be. But if you have like 121 HP, your chances, your opportunities of doing a normal Hypno do increase here. 118 to 119 for Psychic Umbreon in the 1-0 shield scenario, and then roughly 119-ish for the Mirror Shot Ferrothorn 1-0 shield advantage scenario. Like, I think even if you get the debuffs, or if you get the debuffs late enough, like, this is enough HP to reach that final charge move. So I still think you do beat it under most circumstances, but if the Mirror Shot ends up debuffing you like 2 or 3 times, then it sucks to be you, I guess, right? Like, what are you gonna do? But 119-ish HP could help out against that as well. So I guess overall, if you do have like the 123 HP Shadow Venusaur, then I guess you win, right? But if you got anything less than that, then I guess you're going to have to do a little bit of a tango between the defense and the HP stats. When it comes to the attack stat now, specifically, all you really have is Frostlass CMP, once again, so could help out. You're not going to be able to last it out to the 2-2 shield scenario, but when it comes to like the 1-1 shield scenario, or just threatening it with CMP in general, well then yeah, having the Frostlass attack stat from before could be useful. And then also, I noticed that the Dene can beat Shadow Venusaur when at a shield advantage, and Dedenne has a similar attack stat to Venusaur as well, so it could be worthwhile to try to get Dedenne CMP too while you're at it. Or rather than just try, you'll probably end up with it naturally just because you can't really control your Shadow IVs, right? But just a couple things to pay attention to that aren't just defense and HP here. Now, if you're looking at your IV spreads and you're like, oh man, Ryan Swag, I just don't know which one to choose. You know, I got kind of a rough situation myself. For my Shadow candidates, I have the 15-11-15 and the 7-13-6 for Great League PvP, one of which has a 117.9 defense stat, but a 120 HP stat. And the other one has a 122.1 defense stat, but only a 118 HP stat. So it's like, which one's gonna be better? And honestly, because the defense stat's so low, the 117.9, that means a lot of charge moves are going to be doing 1 or 2 extra damage to my 15, 11, 15, which is pretty unattractive. That like 120 HP in a way could effectively be seen as like 118 or 119 HP. And in that respect, it does make the 713.6, the one with the 122.1 defense, look a little bit more attractive in that respect. But the 15, 11, 15 does have a bigger attack stat, which can help for CMP, especially against like Frostlass and I guess the Dene. So that is also something to consider as well. Obviously, I'm going to be evolving both of them because neither of them do well as Ivysaurs and neither of them do well in Ultra League PvP. So I'm going to evolve both, and then when the time comes that I'm going to choose to use a Shadow Venusaur for a specific meta, then I guess I'll make my choice based on that specific meta. But yeah, just letting you guys know ahead of time that it's not super clear cut which one's going to be the best one when it's not already obvious by meeting the defense and the HP checks. And then as far as a table for this goes, like the defense and the HP kind of have that odd relationship with each other. So I think it's kind of difficult to make a table for you guys. So I think it would just be best for you to just check your PvP IVs and your stats using like pvpoke.com or something off of your, I'm assuming, few Shadow Venusaur candidates, and make your choice off of that, right? Just see if you got the HP, see if you got the defense, and if you're thrifting on one or the other, just see how much you're thrifting by, and keep the HP to defense kind of relationship in mind while you do it. That's right, guys, I'm making you do some work now. Holy smokes. And then finally, let's talk about Mega Venusaur in Great League PvP, right? Mega Venusaur can be used in PvP right now, but only in like private battles. But for GBL, Megas aren't allowed. But Pokemon Go mentioned that in the future they may be allowing Megas in GBL, so I feel like I wouldn't be doing my due diligence by not informing you guys of the advantages that Mega Venusaur could have in Great League PvP. Now, when it comes to Mega Venusaur versus normal Venusaur, it does have a lower stat product than normal Venusaur, which suggests that it would be a bit worse, but Mega Venusaur does have a higher attack and a much higher defense weight than normal Venusaur does, which means that it can hit attack stats and defense stats that normal Venusaur can't possibly hit, which could make it better in some specific scenarios, despite having lower stat product and lower HP. For example, in the mirror match, it's doing better against Obstagoon, the Nidoqueens, Dugong in the 1-1 shield scenario specifically, Jellicent, and maybe even Bastiodon, and technically Frostlass. These are all matchups that Mega Venusaur does do better than normal Venusaur, and in a wide breadth of matchups, they're effectively the same, right? So there are reasons to evolve a Venusaur now to be like a Mega Venusaur Great League candidate in the future, just so you got it prepared. And I know that when it comes to Kelki IV, and I believe Pokegenie probably has this feature as well, you can see what the like stats are and like CP requirements are for like the Mega Pokemon for PvP. So it's not like you're completely blind to these what hits well for these leagues as well. When it comes to the exact PvP IVs for Mega Venusaur, I just kind of skimmed over it. I didn't get super in depth with it, but what I did notice was having at least a 105 HP stat was important for the Frostlass 2-2 shield scenario. And if you're wondering, like, Ryan Swag, I thought you said 122 HP was important. How can Mega Venusaur do it at 105 HP? Well, Mega Venusaur has a bigger defense stat, which means the Powdered Snows are hitting a lot more softly, which means that we only need 105 HP instead of 122 HP. And then you got the bigger attack stat, so you don't really have to worry about CMP. You should be getting CMP naturally, even if you're the rank 1 Venusaur. I think you have like a 125 attack stat or something like that. At any rate, that's all I gotta say about Great League Venusaur IVs right now. If you got any questions on this content, of course, comment below, let me know what's up, and I'll be happy to help you out. And if you enjoyed this kind of content, you want to see more like it, maybe you want to know about Ultra League Venusaur IVs, well, make sure to subscribe to Swag Tips. I'd also like to give a special shout out to these Patreon supporters. If you want to support Swagman on Patreon, link in the description. This is a complete rerun of our previous community day, which was only 3 hours, right? So this event presents a good opportunity